Hello everybody and welcome to another video in the simplified openings series. Now this video will be a little bit different than the rest because I won't be exactly looking at specific lines and variations, but rather I would like to show you some tendency that I noticed in one of the openings that is very dear to my heart, that one being the French defense. Now those of you who have followed my channel for a longer period, you will probably know that I have a kind of a interesting relation to the French defense. I basically love to hate it. It's half in jest, half serious, but it's something simply that I have developed over the years. Now, in this video, I would like to give you first an overview about this opening from the very top level chess point of view. Going back in time and looking at World Championship matches, we can probably note the first notable instance of the French defense being the first game of the Capablanca-Alechin World Championship match, where Alechin surprised Capablanca and won the game with black in the exchange variation. And but this was a really bad, or maybe even a lazy game by Capablanca. But nevertheless, the French made a stellar start. Then we had the French played in the Alechin-Ewe matches, here Alechin being on the white side, and we have to say that he was a fantastic player on the white side in the French defense. He trashed Ewe in several games, so this was a pretty bad showing for the French in that match. The next world champion who used the French extensively was Mikhail Botvinnik, and he used it in his world championship matches with Smyslov, which so results, but he was badly trashed by Tal. And to my mind, in the rematch with Tal in 1961, he made the wisest possible choice, swapping the French for the Caro-Kann, which you can even say that it's a much better version of the French, basically getting the same structure, but with a bishop on f5, active one, rather than a pathetic one on c8. And, well, he won the return match convincingly using the Caro-Kann. Petrosian also used the French from time to time in his matches with Spassky. Again, the results were so-so. And then we have a really big gap to see a next World Championship match with the French defense being used, and that one being the one in Baguio between Karpov and Korchnoi. And what is curious about this match is that, well, two things. First of all is that Korchnoi never lost a game using the French in his two World Championship matches against Karpov. But the second aspect is that Karpov, after e4, e6, d4, d5, never actually chose the most critical and arguably the strongest move against the French defense, which is the move knight c3, because he likely wanted to avoid the very sharp variations that Korchnoi used happily, which is the winner variation with bishop b4. Instead, he went for the Tarrasch variation with knight d2, and they had a lot of games after c5, ed5, ed5, Korchnoi being happy to play with an isolated pawn on d5, but like I said, never losing a game here. So then again, we have a big gap all the way to the penultimate world champion, Ding Liren. He actually used the French in his match against Nepomniachtchi in 2018 in one game, where against knight d2, c5, e5, he actually captured with a queen on d5, obtained a great position, outplayed Nepomniachtchi, got a winning position, but in time trouble he lost. And then the last surprise, the last World Championship match where in fact Ding Liren made the French defense his main opening against e4. Now this was really surprising, especially as Ding Liren has been a long time e5 player. But to everybody's surprise, mine included, the French performed fantastically. I mean, he won one game, drew two, and 2 out of 3 with the black pieces in the French defense in a World Championship match is really something extraordinary. So in this video, I would actually like to show you 2 of these games, because the third one featured the exchange variation. I will only briefly mention it. And the reason I'm showing you these games is that in both of these games, Ding Liren in fact applied one and same concept, one and the same idea of treating these French positions. And I think this may be a tendency in how the French defense is played. Maybe more people will pick up this idea and this concept. And I think it's a very practical and useful concept also for everybody playing this defense, because it's very simple, very straightforward, and very natural. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So e4 e6, d4 d5, knight c3. I said I'll briefly mention the exchange variation that happened in the third game, out of the second of the three games where the French defense was played. But in here, Ding's treatment is also notable, because now after knight f3, knight f6, bishop d3, the most common move is the move bishop d6, and black slightly suffers in these symmetrical positions, but Ding had none of it, and he went for the more dynamic approach with c5. And after c3 or castling, it will be the same. He went c4 and went for these positions where black grabs some space on the queen side. Very interesting approach, and I would say that it's definitely worth exploring, especially if you don't like these symmetrical positions after bishop d3, bishop d6, and suffering a little bit there. So let's go back to the main line, knight c3, knight f6. Now it's again a notable difference compared to previous times. I mentioned Korchnoi played the move bishop b4, but lately Darwin Hour is under some sort of a cloud, because the engine generated ideas after e5, c5, a3, takes on c3, bc3, and now knight e7. Engine is very happy to play h4 and then go h5, h6, and all sorts of ideas like this. And black seems to be in trouble in these positions, at least practically. So Ding went for knight f6. This is also the engine's preferred move, interestingly enough. e5, knight d7. And now both games reach this position. And now in the game one, Gukesh played the move f4. In the game 13, he played knight ce2. And it's interesting, we will look at both games. Like I said, in both games, Ding actually played the line in a peculiar way, both times following the same plan. So let's start with game one, f4, c5, knight c2, knight c6, knight c3. And now this is the first indicative moment, a5, right? So there are many moves, obviously, here, queen b6, bishop b7, but this is the starting point of Ding's treatment of these French positions. So he wants to play on the queen side, and the move a5 is aimed at gaining space as much as possible with the advancing of the a-pawn. So knight f3, a4, now bishop e3. It's possible to stop the move a3 later on by black by playing a3, but that will weaken the light squares, and we shall see Ding's play is in fact aimed at taking advantage of the light squares on the queen side. So bishop e7, g4, new move by Gukesh at the time, and now queen a5. Again, following the plan. I mean, we could argue that Ding was spending a lot of time, maybe he was out of preparation, but I'm not so sure about it, because when you follow a plan like this, you must have looked at these positions. He may not have remembered the details, but the general idea how to play on the queen side using the light squares, I'm pretty sure it was prepared, especially as it was repeated in a later game in the match. So bishop g2, and now a3. Part of the plan, yeah, expanding on the queen side. b3 takes on d4, yeah, and now Gukesh plays the move b4, because otherwise it's tricky how to recapture on d4. So if knight fd4, the knight on e2 is required to defend the pawn on c3. There is this unpleasant check from h4. So he goes b4, queen c7, knight e4, and now comes the key point in the whole treatment of the French structures, knight b6. So it's all about this maneuver, knight b6 and knight landing on c4. And again, if you look at it, it's kind of a natural way to play the French defense. And you can always kind of fall back on this plan, on this idea in these French structures when the knight is on d7. Yeah, especially the white on d7, because the knight comes to b6. But then again, also the knight from c6 can also go to a5, especially if this pawn is back on b2, and then go to c4. So it's really straightforward, really simple. Get the knight to c4. And it works like charm in this first game of the match. So just look, castles, knight c4. The first piece to land on c4. There will be two more pieces that will land on c4 in this game for black. The bishop is attacked, goes back to f2, bishop d7, queen e2, takes on d4, now knight d4. Probably a mistake, as Gukesh called it. It was better to take with the bishop, but we won't dwell so much on the details. My point here is to show you the strategic way of playing these positions with black. So knight d4 and now knight b2, very strong move. So you see how nicely the knight on the pawn on a3 and the knight on b2 work together. At the same time, the c4 square is liberated for the queen. So queen e3, rook c8, attacking the pawn on c3, rook c1, queen c4, the second piece to land on c4, this time the queen. f5, white tries to do something with the attack, but it's kind of clear that the pieces are not so well placed there to create anything serious. Queen d3. Impressive play by black, infiltrating the white position using first the c4 square and then the other light squares like the d3 in this case. So Gukesh avoids the exchange of queens. Bishop g5, attacking the rook. It's clear that black is already taking over the initiative. Rook c2, and now the third piece to land on c4, rook c4. Already move 23, total domination by black. Queen on d3, rook on c4, knights on b2, bishop on g5. All the pieces are so active, so well placed. Ding Liren went on to win a very, very nice game in the first game of the World Championship match. So this was really, really impressive. And it was also interesting then to see that Ding Liren stuck to basically exactly the same idea in a slightly different variation at a later stage in the match, at a critical stage in the match in game 13. So now we're going to go back to move 5, where Gukesh deviated from the move f4 that we just looked at, and he went for knight c2, slightly deviating, keeping the pawn still on f2 so that he can play perhaps more useful moves. So c5, c3, knight c6, and now a3. This is the idea Gukesh had in mind, waiting with the pawn still on f2 and taking care of the queen side first. The idea is to go b4. If allowed or if good, and also to take cover of the b4 square. So cd, then the b4 square is not at black's disposal. But Ding Liren continued with the standard development, bishop e7, bishop e3, and now look at it again. What do you think Ding played? Many moves at his disposal. Of course, a5, like in the game we just saw, with the ideas of a4 is possible. Taking on d4 is possible, pushing b5 is possible, but a3 actually weakened the light squares, b3 and c4, so Ding goes knight b6, immediately targeting the c4 square. It's likely not the best move in this position, but it's notable that Ding, probably not remembering the details of his preparation, he stuck to the same plan. So this is the amazing part in this treatment, that he always stuck to the same ideas. Yeah. So knight f4, covering the c4 square, and now cd4, and knight c4. Again, the idea is always to land on c4 and exploit that square for play on the queen side. Now, objectively, this wasn't the best, because after bishop c4, d4, Gukesh had the great option to go queen g4 and take over the initiative. He missed it, he went knight g2, and after b5, again, ambitious move by Ding, using the light squares. The idea is to activate the unopposed light squared bishop on the long diagonal. So I will stop the analysis here, simply because the game went on. It was very exciting and it was eventful. Eventually ended in a draw. Gukesh was winning, but he missed the win. And then we know how the match continued. But again, like I said, the point of this video was to show you this plan of the knight landing on c4 and the way that Ding used it in two important games in a World Championship match. So that would be pretty much about these tendencies in the French I noticed from the last World Championship match. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned some of these strategical ideas that maybe you can use in your games if you play the French. If not, well, just learn a little bit of opening strategy in these positions. So I will wrap up this video here. If you liked it, make sure you subscribe to my Substack. You can also check my Chessable courses, and in case you still haven't done so, make sure you smash the subscribe button, especially as, like I said, I'm getting close to the 5K subscribers on YouTube. I would really appreciate it if you subscribe. Also, if you like my work, would like to support me, consider becoming a paid subscriber on my Substack weekly newsletter. So thanks guys for watching, and I will see you soon next week. Cheers.